4:15. We'll call the meeting to order, and everyone is present except Dr. Garrett, who couldn't, may be in late, but had a conflict, wasn't going to probably be able to be here at all. Going to be led in prayer by Commissioner Tony Smith.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we want to thank Thee for another wonderful day. Lord, bless the people that are sick, need Your guidance, need Your help. Lord, bless our troops that are fighting for our rights, our freedom, our current way of life that we enjoy. Lord, lay a helping hand upon folks tonight. Let them leave their party affiliation in the parking lot. Let them leave their personal grievances in the parking lot. We're here to conduct business for Bedford County, to make it a better place to live for all the citizens in the county. That is what we need to work together as a team to accomplish. I ask this in Thy name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right, first item on the agenda is approval of the April 25th meeting minutes.
Move to approve. Second.
All right, motion is second. Open for discussion or comments. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're on to next is under new business. We had it at the top. We were going to have a presentation last month regarding TIFs, so that's we actually had that deferred for a month. So let me make sure I get his name right. It's Mark Manitow.
Okay.
Close enough. And if you'll come up here toward the front where everybody can see you. He's with, I believe, Bassberry Sims, and is certainly what we'd call an expert on this tax incremental financing, TIF. The city of Shelbyville is, he's already done presentations there. There's some opportunities potentially as a tool for the IDB to use when recruiting maybe retail or industry here. So he'll talk to you all about that as a presentation tonight. We won't plan to take action on it tonight, but it'll give you opportunity for everybody to hear the same information. So if you can.
Where's the? Sure.
Just long, yeah, turn that thing around.
Okay.
So we can hear him. Yeah, that's fine.
Yep. Again, my name's Mark Maventoff. I'm a lawyer. I'm actually drove here from Knoxville, so I was looking forward to that. Sorry I couldn't make it last time.
No problem.
It was we're in the middle of doing a little baseball stadium there, and so that's what I had a conflict. And I'll be quick. I understand y'all give me about 10 minutes, and so I have a very short presentation. Glad to send it. You all can send it to anybody that would like a copy. It's really not very substantive, but just really quickly, tax increment financing, and the reason you're hearing from me is Shelbyville reached out to me because I actually wrote the law that industrial development boards allow to do things, and it purely was accidental that I did it for a different purpose, but sometimes laws work out that way. And so I did the first tax increment financing through the IDB back in 2004 in a little city called Newport, Tennessee for a Lowe's, and I've been doing off and on TIFs. I am not here today to try to convince you whether tax increment financing is good or bad. I'm here to give you some information. I am a bond lawyer primarily. I work with folks like you all to issue debt for schools and things like that. I almost 90% of my work is for cities, counties, governmental entities. I do very little developer side work. And so normally I am working with a community to get things done. And so the city is interested in adopting tax increment financing policies to provide guidance. I think Shane is here tonight. I've been working with him. Scott Collins was one who originally reached out to me. And so they asked me to come and just to give you a quick overview and to answer any questions you might have. Tax increment financing is different from tax abatement. People talk about tax abatement, they often use the term pilot, where you're actually abating somebody's taxes. With a tax increment deal, there's no abatement of taxes. Taxes are paid just like they normally are, but when your trustee collects the taxes, you get to keep the base taxes, which is the taxes that were payable on the property for the year before. You get to keep the percentage of your tax rate that's for debt service. So in other words, if your tax rate's $2 and 20 cents of that is designated for debt service, you keep 10% of the excess. The remainder is up for grabs. And so in my thing, so you can keep or give as much or as little as you want above that. And so as a county, that's usually the big decision you have to make in terms of how much are you willing to give. Some give all of it, some hold back some for schools, some, and I'm glad when we have more time, I'll be glad to give you examples from all over the state what people do.
Now, when you say give, you're talking about to the developer as an incentive?
It goes through the Industrial Development Board. And so let me jump ahead a little bit again.
No
I'll try to be quick. No, I don't want to. So So two types of entities in Tennessee can do tax increment incentives, and I call them incentives because they either can be reimbursement or financing. I don't have time tonight to really walk you all through that, but glad to do that at a longer session if you would like that. But basically, we're talking about industrial development boards right now because what you all may have an interest in is supporting some commercial retail development or maybe even some other economic development. Largely, that's done through industrial development boards. You also can do TIFs to do blighted properties. That's historically what they were used for before 2004, but we're largely talking about probably specialized retail. A lot of communities like yours in which I've worked, there's often some type of retailer that people are going outside the county to spend their sales tax dollars, and the community leaders say, we would like that retailer here in our community, and we'll give them a tax increment financing to help, often to pay for like road improvements, traffic signalization, things like that, to get them to come to their community. And the sales tax revenues, the local option share that would go to the schools, and if it's in the city, the local option part would go to the city, and the other half, I assume Bedford County Schools would get that largely. If that greatly outweighs the benefit. We've done tractor supplies have been a typical thing. Hotels have been very common thing that we've done. Often national, the Hampton Inns of the world, things like that, because a lot of smaller communities want a national chain hotel in their community. And Chick-fil-A's have been a big one. Almost everyone would, say, the $10 to $12 million of Chick-fil-A would throw off the sales tax revenues thing. I'm not saying whether this is right or wrong, but these are the kind of deals we're seeing around the state that people are asking us for help with. Then we're seeing much bigger projects. You guys are obviously in the sort of as I call it, the penumbra of Nashville, and so we're seeing a lot of TIFs. We've got one that we're working on right now that Murray County is going to be asked to vote on in Spring Hill. That's a very big one where they're trying to do a huge USTA tennis complex surrounded by mixed-use development. You're a very special, so beautiful, by the way. Thank you I always enjoy coming here, and I know that growth versus economic development is always a hard issue in a community like your all's. With a TIF, just a few things to keep in mind. There's no abatement of taxes. You pay taxes just like normal. Nothing changes there. It doesn't affect the valuation of the property. It's assessed the same way that you normally assess property. And as you were just asking, Mayor, it's a grant to the developer through the IDB, basically. So if you approve a tax increment incentive for, say, a really cool retailer comes and you approve that site for a tax increment incentive, to the extent that the increment that you all approve, and you have to approve this, it's not, the city can't affect unlike a pilot, you can't approve a TIF for the city share, and they can't approve your all share without your mutual consent. So both of you would have to approve it to be able to use the thing. So basically what happens is the growth that I talked about a minute ago, and if you turn to the next chart, it sort of shows what that group that is. So basically, here's the base taxes, which are the dark blue, and then the debt service that I just talked about. You get to keep that. So the lighter blue, you get to keep that, and then the light blue is what's up for grabs. So you can allocate that to the Industrial Development Board, and you can do both real property taxes and personal property taxes. I generally encourage people not to do the personal property because it's really hard to track and to limit any incentive to the real property. But basically, the question that most communities say is, is it worth me allocating this to the Industrial Development Board? The Industrial Development Board then can either use that increment to agree to reimburse the developer for certain development costs. Again, usually it's got to be public infrastructure without certain public approvals, which is generally road improvements, sidewalk improvements, stormwater improvements, the things like that are often needed for a development. The biggest one, though, is parking. The state law allows you to actually help them with their parking. And so, because otherwise you might need off-street parking or things like that. So that is what that increment would go, if you should show approved, to the IDB. They would then use it to either reimburse the developer or the IDB on a non-recourse basis. It's not like a debt of the IDB that they would have to pay back, except from this. Often, if the developer needs the money up front, say to pay for a traffic signal, they can borrow against this increment, not the developer, but the IDB, and then the IDB then can grant those funds to the developer up front. We do a lot of those, simple transactions, usually, again, to help with road or utility improvements needed to do a development. What is the process? What's your role? So you approve a plan. It's called an economic impact plan for the IDB. They hold a public hearing. They have to give 14 days notice of that public hearing. And then It's then submitted to you all and to city council to see if you want to approve it or not. And so you definitely have a big seat at the table. They can't, again, it's not something the IDB can do unilaterally without your approval. And then what are the projects we're seeing? Again, the retail and the hotel stuff I described, a lot of downtown revitalization projects that we do. And then the kind of these big mixed-use developments, often people ask for incentives because a lot of it is public infrastructure. You often see like a big boulevard going down a big development and they say, look, I'll do all this retail, I'll bring all these shopping and things like that, but I need help with a big road. And often a TIF is a way to accomplish that. You also can use them, we've used them some for like wastewater extensions, that you have, say, an area that you want to see developed, but you can't afford the wastewater out there. Wastewater in of itself is an approved project under the IDB statute. So we've done some of those. Sewer, yes. But it's much more elegant to call it wastewater, and so but yes, it's just good old sewer.
Now, I know you say the county would have to approve it before the IDB could administer it. Is that every case as it comes up, or would that be established in policies for the IDB, and from there they'd go into autopilot?
You're great. You just gave me a good segue
Okay,
to my last one. Yeah, no, I'm kidding, but yes. Unlike pilots, you can't do a blanket resolution. You have to approve every plan. In other words, you can't say, dear IDB, as long as it meets these requirements, go forth and prosper and do TIFs. You have to approve every single plan. And why are we doing policies? There's a lot of key issues like how quickly does the trustee have to pay on the increment to the IDB? You know, state law says 30 days. I get trustees screaming at me that 30 days isn't enough. So you can adjust that in the plan to give them 60 or 90 days. That's a good example. Do you want to hold back some for schools? You know, a portion of the increment. Those are the sort of things that you guys don't have to be a party to the policies if you don't want to. You know, you have an IDB. My guess that there's probably a Bedford County IDB and there's a city IDB. I was contacted by the city IDB. It would be wonderful if you choose to join in, because if a developer knows that the county has agreed to these policies for their own, you know, the things that affect the county, that way they have some predictability. But if you said, look, we're not interested in joining in these, we just sort of want to follow along, that's fine too. But we can do a draft, we'll share it with you guys, and you can say, yeah, this looks kind of cool, we'd like to do it. It does not bind you in any way to approve any TIF. It has like an application form, because like some developer will show up in your community and say, hey, I want a TIF. I get that all the time. Like, okay, where do I start? You know, probably start with Shane, fill out an application, give a bunch of information. Are these reputable people? You know, what are you trying to accomplish? What's your financing? They would present an application. It would be submitted to the IDB. It would be shared with you mayors, probably shared with this group, whatever way you all want to do it. But these policies basically set forth that whole process on terms of and then they're just a bunch of little, but to me, is a nerdy bond lawyer key decisions that help, that if you make these decisions, because what often happens is somebody will show up and ask for it, and then you're making all those decisions on the fly, often in the context of a particular deal, instead of thinking back about policy of what's best for Bedford County. And so I was going to meet with the city folks while I was over here today and just sort of go through a draft. And then if you guys are, I know you'll be agreeable, we can send you all a draft and you can sort of see what these policies are about. And then you can decide if that's something you would like to run through your finance committee and take eventually to commission. When we did some amendments to state law a number of years ago, and I should have introduced my partner, Betsy Knotts. I don't know if some of you all know Betsy. She was the head of the Board of Equalization at one point and was head of state and local finance, but she now works with us, and she has worked on a lot of the laws that relate to this area too. And back in maybe about 7, 8 years ago, a lot of the laws were rewritten with comptroller approval to try to protect communities a little bit better from overstepping bounds on TIFs and saying what can you spend the money on. Again, these policies were specifically authorized by that law so that you could have some predictability. We've done these. Montgomery County is a very fast-growing county too, much like you all, and we've done policies for about 4 or 5 different areas up there that they have found very helpful to try to with development. So, and there's probably about 8 to 10 jurisdictions that I'm aware of that have adopted TIF policies of some sort. Not legally required, just sort of good governance sort of thing.
So it's just having a tool in the toolbox.
Yes,
We have to approve each one by the county commission.
exactly.
What's the average duration on like a retail?
So you cannot go beyond 20 years without state approval. The developer always starts with 20 years, often
What's the average?
average
On
is somewhere
retail.
between 10 and 15 years.
And I think for the committee tonight and commissioners that are out there, tonight's intent was not to absorb all this and we have everything straightened out in our mind. It was to introduce us to it, let us all understand the city is already a little further on the journey than we are, at least establishing some policies. And then he is going to meet with the county attorney after this meeting today, and the county attorney will be able to give more specific guidance to the commission if we find ourselves wanting to go further with this. And we may need to even bring him back for some specific details. So tonight wasn't a night that you got to vote, yes, we want to be in the TIF business, but we want to make sure everybody understands what the TIF is all about and why it's worth. I certainly think, and the county attorney has expressed the same sentiment to me, that we think it's wise to at least go on this journey of looking at what policies could look like and maybe establishing them, because it does not then guarantee that we necessarily exercise them, but we will have the structure in place when the right situation would come along that we would want to potentially use this tool in exchange for a pilot or whatever the case might be. The IDB is joined, the city and county is together on the IDB that we have.
Right.
So is that, on that, is there any particular question that jumps out at you tonight that, like I said, we would have to have a lot more information before you actually voted on it?
Mr. Mayor, also, we worked very hard to have Mark and Bassberry Sim as our bond counsel. We didn't have them the first 2 years, but we've had them ever since as bond counsel. And they represent us very
Right.
well, and we're very fortunate to have them.
Absolutely.
That's embarrassing, but I mean, we do that's what I love doing is helping communities, and so it is, again, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go over everything, but I did one of these presentations, then one of the commissioners came up to me like, who's buttering your bread? And I was like, no, I'm not here to try to convince you to do anything. Full disclosure, I was asked by, the city to come, and that's who had hired me to help. But Mr. Bobo is who reached out to me originally, actually, and so this can be a very collaborative thing, and you all can just decide, we just don't want to mess with this. It's fine, but I'm delighted to come back and walk you all through policies at some point if that would be helpful.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things that I've heard, I've had several meetings where I'm hearing more and more about this, and I get better at it every time, but I'm still nowhere near where I need to be. But obviously, as he was saying, they would set, I guess, zones or boundaries or what have you. The city could do a TIF, whether the county did the TIF in the city or not. There's cities in our county, so we could have play there. But there are places in the county that would not be in the city where we could do a standalone TIF as the county, particularly for something in the future as well. So again, that's another reason why we should consider it. And I think historically speaking, the county tax numbers are normally larger than the cities. And so a developer would be much more interested in certainly having both, ideally. But
yes.
if they could only have one, they probably would ideally rather have the counties than the cities just because of the size of it. Is that your historical?
Yeah, and I'll leave you with one last story unless y'all have questions. Is like right now, like there's a guy wanting, in McMinn County's Athens, it's a small county. They don't have a TJ Maxx, they don't have a Ross Dress. These are very common retailers that people, I don't know if you all have those in your community, but they're all driving to Knoxville or Cleveland or stuff to get them. They're losing tons of local option sales tax dollars. They're glad to do a TIF actually for this developer to pay for the thing, but their tax rate is so low between the county and the city that it can't generate actually a large enough TIF to do it. And so it's really been a conundrum where they actually want to help, but their tax rate is such that it doesn't generate enough to do it. I don't, I haven't studied your all's tax rate yet, but that's, and to be blunt, that's the developer's problem. You can't really do much more than offer what you got. And so, but that's a very common thing I get is developers, the cost of construction. I know you all probably seen it on some of your projects. It's just, just gone crazy right now. And so a lot of developers come and they say, I just can't make this deal work without some assistance, particularly on the public infrastructure side.
Okay, any other questions or thoughts on it?
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay,
Thanks for.
thank you. Appreciate you.
Come down.
Yeah, we can. Okay, so then, yeah, we thought we had it, yeah, there we go. So the next item on the agenda is the solid waste report. I know it's in your packet. She's right here.
First of all, I want to apologize. I think it was one of my recycling reports that was not in last month's work. We have completed our 6th training for the year, which is the state mandated to have certified attendance at each one of the centers. And this makes sure that the centers are checking, make sure that they're keeping everything in tip-top shape that the inspector will be looking at when he comes for his visits, which are quarterly. And This past month, we had, all of the centers had perfect scores. The end of our fiscal year is rapidly approaching, so we're working on reports and getting ready to start a new year. I attended the Tennessee Environmental Network Show of the South in Chattanooga last week, and they had several interesting classes to go to. We're having some visitors from Giles and Williamson counties next week to tour our centers, just to see how we operate. I've been down there to their facilities, and they wanted just to come up and visit with us, so we're going to host them this next week.
So Williamson County's coming to see how we do it.
Exactly.
There is a,
And that makes 5 different bigger communities than we have is come and look at our operation and how we operate here. Rutherford County is basically put in the same system that we have here in all of our centers, in their centers that they're putting in now.
do we thank you or Diane for this?
Diane.
Okay.
Yes.
That is all I actually have on that. We had $14,338.80 of recycled revenue coming in. Metal prices have gone up. Cardboard is still down. We had 84.32 tons that we recycled. Tonnage going to the landfill was a little bit less. I look for that to go up next month. It was 890.27 tons. It cost the county $31,141.77. And with schools closing, look for tonnage to go back up at all the centers next coming months. Anybody have any questions?
All right, you're done, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, up next, HR report.
Yes, so you all have a snapshot of what onboarding and offboarding data look like for the month of April. I've also included our standard job postings that we keep open pretty much all calendar year. Also, a snapshot of positions recently filled specific to corrections, EMS, AEMT, health department office assistant, health department educator, nutrition. So ongoing projects in my office for the month of April, we've had several FMLA requests from various employees that I've been working on, processing a workers' comp claim. A lot of my time has been spent in the fall. We do a lot of Title VI assessment surveys, but this time of year I get a lot of specific requests to maintain Title VI with various agencies that we hold grants with. And so I've completed a lot of testing in the month of April. One of those I cited under my professional development, just so you all can see what I have been working on. And in addition to that, really going through legislative updates with the fine-tooth comb, making sure I don't miss anything pertinent to personnel compliance at the state level that would be effective in July. So I've been working through those and updating policies specific to holiday scheduling and drug policies. And that's pretty much where I'm at for the month of April on this report. If you all have any questions.
Any report, questions for Rachel? All right, thank you for all your hard work. Up next is archives. Yes, she's here.
We continue to have more and more researchers come through and help them. This last month in April, was proud to say that we've had almost more volunteer hours than we have regular work hours. We've had 2 regular volunteers coming every week now, and we have gained a summer volunteer researcher who will come once a week, so from Cascade. So we're excited for young people to be interested in that side of it. We're working with all of the recent records, and we finished up, or I am finishing up the grant work from the state. We will have a start at housing architectural drawings, not only historic but current. We are already, going to take care of the current records of the courthouse renovations that will help in the future for future work. Just this week, we had some of the electricians hoping for some architectural drawings that don't exist. So we're hoping that we can create a facility better to address those kind of things so that anybody in the future can find what's wrong with the building. and that sort of thing. So those are the kind of things, we're doing numerous outreach, and we've had so many interesting research questions over the week, there are too many to cover. But we have lots of interesting people come, visitors come through. So that's basically short for this.
Any questions for?
And thanks Shanna again for Title VI. I always have to do Title VI work, and it's wonderful to have Shanna help with that.
Absolutely. All right, thank you for that. Next was architects, which Dr. Garrett normally gives an update on that. She's not here tonight, but everything's progressing there. I've not been made aware of any particular obstacle that we can't overcome. So far, so good. They're on target. Monthly reports. Sure.
Okay, you have a copy of your monthly report, and I'd just like to point out on page 1 is the general fund. We have collected 95% of our budget as far as revenues, and that's typical because most of the taxes are complete now. And page 3 is the expenditure side. We have expended 73% of the budget, which is pretty much on target. And then we have the other funds behind that. I don't have anything really unusual to report. If you have questions about one of those, I'll be glad to answer it. Okay, so the next part is our tax collections, and you've got an analysis. And this is comparing this year to last year at the same time. We've collected $5,400,000 more in property tax. This is because primarily of the tax increase. Prior year collections are less than last year by $436,000. And then the second page is clerk and master collections, and we're $66,000 ahead of the same time last year. And then on sales tax, we're $1,700,000 ahead of the same time last year. And then the last page is mineral severance tax, and we don't have all the data in for the year. We still have June out there. So we are behind $15,000 as far as compared to last year. The next area you have is juvenile detention. We're projecting a loss for the year of $241,000. We've got 2 months to go. As far as traffic school, we are projecting $85,000 as a net profit. And then your last statement is the analysis, just several accounts. Right now, the average is 83%, so anything over 83% is highlighted in red. And some of those are dealt with the budget amendment, but they will all be cleared up by the end of the year in our cleanup amendment. So that's my report.
Okay. Questions? We're heading to the finish line. Other reports, I believe EMS is in the house.
We've had an extremely busy month. We've run our normal set of calls like we always do. We've also participated in several events throughout the month. Chris was able to participate in the Good Charities event at Southside Elementary. We also participated in the River Safety Days. We also had a surprise state audit yesterday, which we have every year. We passed that with flying colors. That's all I've got. In addition to my report, if anybody has any questions, I'm going to ask the
These reports are the amendments separate.
All right. Any comments or questions for EMS? Okay, so we need a motion to approve the monthly reports.
Motion approved.
All right.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor? Any opposed? Yeah. All right, so up next is Board of Education Budget Amendment number 3.
Okay, this amendment was passed by the Board of Education, and I just need to give you some of the highlights of what's in it. On page 1, we have an ISM grant, which is with CTE, and that's $5 million. Now, they can't spend all of that this year, but we have the unspent portion in our budget coming up. So we had an SLC grant of $172,000, also one for $950,000. We had some STEM grants, an SPARC grant, and then we had some refunds, and then we also took some money out of fund balance to do the TCAT building purchase, which is $2.4 million. Now, the The state is asking 4.6, I believe, for that, 4.6. So the other difference is coming out of ESSER funds, which is federal money. So we had to come up with the difference from what the federal money could be used. And we have to use that by June 30th, or we have to send it back. So that is the synopsis of the school budget, and the detail is behind it.
You want it approved separate from the county?
No, we can.
Okay. All right, so,
Do notice the colored pages, you have child nutrition, they had a supply chain assistance grant, which we had to amend in. And then there was a small department transfer on school age care. So that's the rest of the school budget amendment. And now I'm going to move to the county budget amendment. And if you'll turn to the first page, you'll see a synopsis. It consists of various things. We've got animal control donations. We've got a COVID awning grant for the health department, an election grant for voting machines of $288,000. The Uncle Nearest pass-through grant. We get the money in, but it goes out, and that's $450,000. We have a firefighter equipment grant. We have a health department grant for additional revenue, and we have some additional Medicaid revenue for the EMS department. So we have refunds, reimbursements. We did move money out of the fund balance for, it's basically grant matches. We had a GDAG grant we had to match. Courthouse security money came out. And that's out of a special fund that can only be used for security. We had the clerk's SSR, which is their technology part that they collect, and it can only be used for technology. And then we had the county clerk had an EIVS portion that they moved from restricted money. So if there's any questions, we'd be glad to answer.
so that's the county amendment. We need a motion to approve both of the amendments, to send it to the commission.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, motion second. Any other discussion, comment? All in favor? Any opposed? Moving on. A lot of grants. That's a good thing. All right. Next item on the agenda is, surplus property from the Board of Education, noting that one of the items is the house that was on part of the Cascade property, the old Cascade property. So that's being surplus, so it can be, I guess, tore down or what have you. The school board would have recommended both of these, or sent this as well as the athletic lockers. All right, motion second. Any other questions, comments about that? All right, all in favor? All right, so I'm gonna jump over the juvenile detention and put it after the budget so that we can go ahead and talk about budgets, and that'll explain a lot of, I think, what we can do there. So, we had a special call meeting a week or two ago, and we loaded all of the department's request in as basically requested, with the exception of a couple items that we denoted at the time. That was putting us in a situation where we were going to be upside down on our projections of revenue versus expenditures. One area was, I think, almost 600,000. One was 500 and something thousand, about 1.2 million. And so what I told you we would do, and historically I've done since I've been the mayor, is I work with Robert and Lori and try to bring back to you guys tonight a budget that is stripped out some of the things that, from operational standpoint, we feel like that maybe we could defer or push off or not fund at this time. So we'll start with the school's budget because it's the top one in your packet. So you've got your big packet here in front of you, and the school budget is the first one that is there for you. The school board met, I guess, Thursday night, and our school chairman of the school board, Michael Cook, is here with us, so we're happy to have you. And they recommended this budget, and this was going to require no new tax increase based on their projections, correct? Correct. Right, so that's the school budget that's in front of you. Yeah, and we can have Robert hit the highlights of that if you like, and then if you have any other specific questions about school budget, we can take those questions from you.
Okay, this budget includes annual steps plus a 5% salary increase included in the budget for all employees. This is a total of $2,236,499 total cost, including matching benefits. Now, the state will pay a portion of that for the certified employees, which is your teachers. They're paying actually 2.6% of that 5. We've added 30 new teaching positions, 1 principal part year, and that's for Cartwright Elementary. They don't need one for the whole year. A lot of this is coming because of the increase in the TISA money. We have the CSH grant, the LEAPS, pre-K, and Safe Schools grants included at the prior year amounts because we do not know the new amount yet. And when we get the new amount, we'll amend it for the difference. And that's typically how we do that each year. We also have the Innovative Schools Models Grant, and that's the ISM grant I mentioned back in the amendment. We feel like we're going to have $4,749,246 unspent by the end of this year, so we have to re-budget that. That will be included in the budget. We also included 10 SROs, which is $527,873 plus benefits. This was the discussion with the school board at the time. We didn't know what the state was going to do, and some of that may have to be reallocated later, but it's in here because at the time that was the best we could do on that. Next is internet connectivity. These relate to Cartwright Elementary. We have $440,000 in there for that. Cabling, $264,440. Other charges, $45,770, and this is computer related. Computer equipment, $689,990, and that's included for the new Cartwright Elementary. We have $100,000 for athletics at 4 schools. These are your high schools and Liberty, plus $45,000 for athletic trainers at 3 schools. We've included 1 90-passenger school bus at $135,000, and also the school board added 4 classrooms for Thomas Middle School at a cost of $2,037,000. Now, that does not include the architect fee. That'll have to be out of this year because they've got to design it and get it done before June 30th, so we don't have the tornado shelter issue. So that's the highlights of the school budget.
Okay, again, no increase in tax associated with this budget being put forward. Again, the chairman's here, and since Dr. Garrett's not here, is there anything you want to say, or are you comfortable with how we summarized your budget?
I think you did a really good job of explaining and appreciate that, Robert. We are able to give 5% raises across the board. That's for every person. That's a really good deal. Also, too, we are absorbing within our budget with some federal money that we have. We're able to go ahead and get those 4 additional classrooms. Thomas Magnet, our goal is to get that to K-8. That will allow us to do that and have enough classrooms to get all the kids. So, yeah, any other questions?
One question, those 30 new teachers you hired, is this because of the new school at Cartwright, or was it
A lot of that is because of CTE.
Okay, good.
You know, we're improving the CTE advantage, the governor's initiative, and a lot of those teachers are for the CTE.
The SROs between this and the sheriff's budget are all covered now. True.
That's 10 SROs in your budget.
And the athletic trainers, you said the 3 complexes, I guess you mean Central High School and Harris Middle, and then Cascades complex of athletics and communities athletics, and then Liberty.
Yes, ma'am. What we're trying to do is, we're trying to get a better bid actually than what was budgeted for, through, different agencies, but, I mean, right now, that's where we're at. The cost is skyrocketing.
Actually, we had a bid and they have rescinded it. They don't want to do it anymore. So they're looking at, I think, even hiring some people to help out with it. The company that we bid with to do the athletic trainers. So I think they're looking internally at maybe hiring somebody to even help with some of that.
Yeah, we also have an option to hire people that could potentially teach some classes and do things like that and be on site. That'd be really good if that works out.
Any other comments or thoughts about that?
Thank you, Mike.
Oh, I do have one.
Okay, sure.
The trailer that's to the left as you go into Thomas, will that be gone? Or that building?
Portable, yes.
So,
We would like to get rid of all portables.
right, so with these 4 classrooms, that thing can go to.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments, thoughts about that?
Thank you.
So it looks like the school budget, as approved by the school board coming to us, would not have any additional new financial tax impact to it. So that's good news. All right. Next, we're moving on to the county general. And we've got a summary sheet. And for those that were here with us before, we read off everything. That's the same sheet. I'm going to tell you what we pulled out of there to pull it down into a workable number. And then Robert can go through the actual things that are in there, and then that way you'll hear it. And I was able to talk with the folks today that would be impacted by this, but through the county building maintenance program, they'd asked for a $30,000 man lift. We are going to pause on that for now. There is a need for that. It could be used throughout the county, but at this time, we could rent one from time to time, giving us opportunity to get these numbers down so that we're not looking at a tax increase. Fire department had asked for 6 new positions with a value of about $427,000. Again, this is not reduction in force of service, but these would have been new positions. We are going to pause on those for now. I've spoke with the fire chief about that. He understands that. Now, we did include adding the fire marshal position. Robert will talk to you about what's in the budget here in just a minute, and he'll mention that for you. The $90,000 for the volunteer fire pay program, we had already said that we did not have that in a situation to put it in. It's not in. Again, I've spoke with him about that. If we have opportunities with revenues in the future, we'll look to do that program. That would be an ongoing reoccurring cost if we were to pick that up. So that's not in at this time. The fire under the capital, which was part of where we were upside down, by taking out the pumper truck for now, and they do have a truck that's coming this year. We've bought a couple of trucks since I've been the mayor. That would allow us to pull off about $425,000 of that number we were trying to get down. And then the fire department grant funds of $121,000. If they were to get those grants, then we could look at one-time monies in reserve to potentially address those. That way, we're not in a situation of budgeting it and putting us in a situation where we would be potentially tight with the tax rate. So those are the highlights of what's out from what we talked about the other day, but Robert has the list, and he'll go over the summary of the county general budget for you.
Okay. The budget includes a 1% annual step for full-time employees and a 5% cost of living adjustment. It's the same as schools. And the judge has 4%, all state elected and appointed officials, 5%, for a total cost of $53,932. This includes longevity, retirement benefits, nonprofits. This one we need to discuss.
Right, this one, we left it for this body to weigh in on how you would want to, but it currently, the entire amount is in our consideration.
So we've got $79,335 additional in there. 25 of that is the fire stations, and we have a new request of 10,000. So we need to kind of decide on Habitat for Humanity. So
And then how much was the library? Maintenance of everything.
do you have the library amount?
Again, keeping in mind, we do have even these increases in our balanced budget.
Right.
But anything that this body feels like ought to come out of there or be held or restricted, we can do that too. Yeah, I think if you're prepared to discuss that now, because if we could get to the end of this today in some kind of agreement about what we want to send to the commission, that will then let Robert's office start to prepare the booklets that we can then push out to all the commission. They'll have plenty of time to look at them, study, gnaw on it, think about it before the special call meeting at the end of the month of June.
We've kind of been going off the last many years of keeping things as they were, and the library is a whole different animal on it. So I make a motion to leave things as they were, not take any new ones on. Fire departments, yes, on the 25,000, and the library was, Lori helped me, 14. Okay.
And then let
It's
me.
maintenance of effort.
Yeah, and now the economic development funds were being in a different area of the budget. They've been moved into here, but this is the current amount we've
Yeah,
funded the
right.
last 3 years. So I'd like to
Say
recommend we
that,
keep
yes,
that
yes,
in there,
yes, yes.
the
Yes,
100,000
keep
for
that.
economic
Okay.
development.
Yeah.
It's in there, and it reflects in that number, and so I
Gotcha.
just didn't want to mislead anybody
Yeah,
about it.
Okay, yes.
Okay. Right.
Lori, are you good on my motion?
So are you adding the money to the library?
And
The
keep,
maintenance of effort there, and then the 25,000 fire department,
Keeping it in? Okay.
and then the,
now soil conservation, did they have a,
They had an
$4,000 increase for soil conservation that they need for grants.
I was not there that meeting. What was
It was grants.
It's grants.
Grants.
I believe that's right, isn't that what-
Grant money that they needed.
Yes.
Take out Habitat
Yes.
and leave everybody else from Arts Council down same as last year.
Understanding that economic development is now reflected in nonprofits where it was being paid in another area.
Kind of like when
Yeah,
you put
exactly.
the fire departments. to the
Exactly
side,
right.
too.
But the $100,000 going to economic development is in this number.
Yeah, it shows here instead of
Yes.
somewhere else.
Right.
We've
We
always
moved it
funded
this
it,
year. Yeah.
but it hasn't showed in this line before.
Okay.
So I understand that. Okay, so is that, that's your motion? Somebody second that? All right, so motion second, all in favor with that? Aye. Okay.
Okay, we'll revise the budget for that.
Right.
Okay, the next item is county buildings budget, includes a market adjustment of $18,633, matching taxes for an existing maintenance supervisor position with certifications. We have a sewer machine of $7,500, a maintenance van of $25,000, a trailer for the grounds crew for $2,000, hand tools, power tools, miscellaneous tools, $5,300, and a $100,000 estimate for the jail demolition. We have that under bid currently. We do not know how much yet. So,
So it's a placeholder for us.
yes.
And there may be something like asbestos or some issues that we don't even know about.
Well, we're doing the studies
Yeah,
now,
we're
we're
doing
waiting
the
on the
studies.
results, but the county would be obligated to
Yes.
mitigate that anyway, correct?
Mitigate any
Yeah, so-
asbestos they seen.
Right.
They say there's very
Yeah.
minimal, 2 spots that they think may have some in it, but they don't know for sure, but it's very small areas, which really surprised me. But we should have the report back within the end of this week, or at the latest Monday.
And Mark's done a great job stepping up, helping me on this
We
project.
also have some equipment in there that we didn't realize was in there that can be utilized somewhere else. And Jeff Sweeney is going to make an inventory of that for us. And then we'll have to do an addendum to the actual bid to say that's not included. Okay, the next item is IT budget, includes necessary software for email and multi-factor identification, whatever it's called, multi-factor.
Authentication.
Authent.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay, got tongue-tied on that one. And this is required by insurance because we have cyber insurance, and if we don't do this, we can't get cyber insurance. If we don't get cyber insurance, we can't get grants from the state because the state's requiring it now. And they started out at wanting us to have $10 million, then it went to 2, and then we only can get 1. So they just changed it last week to 1. So we're in good shape there if we can get this implemented. Okay, the next item is sheriff's budget. It includes 7 new SROs and 2 new SRO floaters, admin positions for $636,076. And this includes matching taxes and insurance. The revenue includes $1,050,000 matching offset from the governor's bill for 14 schools. $111,000 as a reimbursement from schools for the 2 floaters, and this will come out of the ones we talked about that were in the school budget. And it includes 2 additional cars, $100,225, does not include uniforms, equipment, training, etc. And we added $18,360 to contracted services for year 2 of 5 for the Motorola body cam contract. This was not originally reflected in the sheriff's request. Okay, next is the EMA budget. It includes.
Just to clarify, the 7 SROs that are in the county budget, I heard 10, what's the difference between those two?
Well,
What's in the school budget versus?
At the time we did the school budget, we didn't know what the governor's bill was going to do, so they included 10. Okay, when we found out we needed 7 additional on the county side, the governor's funds, I think, flow to the county, the way I understand it. So we will probably reallocate some of that money that's in the school budget, and it may go to cars or a couple of these floaters that we're talking about.
It'll have to be amended at some point when the state decides
Yes.
how they're gonna hand it to us.
So we've got a little more information, but we're still getting mixed information from the state. Anything else? Okay. EMA budget includes a $3,500 increase in communication, $2,000 increase in building repairs, $1,200 increase in contracted services, $1,200 increase in utilities, $2,100 increase in equipment, $20,000 annual Tango contract, and they requested cleaning services using an estimate of $14,400. And this is based on the health department, what they spend. And if you know, we have moved out of the old EMA building into the new EMA building, and that's the reason for some of these increases, because that was the Tennessee Rehab Services.
money that we got from the sale of the old EMA to do the remodel on the new building?
Yes. And whatever's left will go back into the fund balance.
And we paid down about 300,000, we put about 300,000 back in the million that we, and so if any is left of that, then it will sweep back over there as well. We're just waiting to see if we can, what we can do. And the EMA guy, he's here, if you want to ask a specific question, but they're trying to tailor their remodel to reflect what we have funds available.
Fire department budget includes one new fire marshal position, total cost of $79,604. That includes the base pay, matching taxes and insurance, holiday pay, required medical and cancer screening, in-service, the EMR and tech team supplements. The state required in-service supplements for 3 qualified volunteers is $1,938. And we have new part-time funding of $45,678. This includes matching taxes. And we have a $2,000 increase in custodial supplies, $2,000 increase in fuel, $600 increase in uniforms, $936 increase in training, $12,800 increase in the tech team cost, $16,800 new fire report software, which they're required to have. And then we have $7,143 for new turnout gear for the fire marshal that we're hiring. Okay, the next part.
I just have a question on that too. What do we need to have? I mean, are we required to have a fire marshal, or what do they do, or?
We can defer to.
Forgive my ignorance on that.
They are actually working the structure part of 64.
Okay, yeah, Mark actually talked about, I'll give you just a snapshot and then you can follow up direct with him. The purpose that the fire marshal position would bring to the system is currently there is no fire oversight in new building construction. Now codes obviously has built-in codes related to safety and what have you, but there's not actually fire inspection during the process. And so fire marshal and the city of Shelbyville has one. Lots of cities, lots of places have fire marshal. That's a designated position that's strictly looking at life safety issues with structures and also compliance even with businesses. Once they're operating, they go in and look to make sure that their exits are not blocked and all these things. So with over 50,000 people, we're growing at about 1,000 people a year. Construction is still strong and heavy. It's really the next step and phase in fire protection operations for the county. So that was the recommendation. Yes, and it does factor into your ISO rating. It's another one of those formula pieces that generates what your ISO rating will be.
And two, Anita, we don't have the zoning codes written to include this, but when we do, there will be a charge for the new construction for the fire marshal to go out. So some of the expense of that will be recovered, kind of like with zoning, hopefully it won't pay for itself completely, but there will be some return on it.
Okay. And then if you'll follow up with Mark, or I can ask him to call you, either one, whichever would suit.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, that,
I wouldn't know for sure if that was.
I was surprised he wasn't here, and so, but if they got, yeah,
I
so,
think it's a horse barn. They're fine.
that's terrible. All right. All
Okay,
right. go ahead.
next item is the EMS budget. This includes a 2472 model, and that's related to payroll, so I don't know if you want to address that or.
Is there any questions?
Okay, next is solid waste budget. We removed the capital expenditure items from the cardboard compactors from the original request. Budget includes a $14,976 increase in the landfill contract, $30,000 increase in fuel, $27,000 increase in equipment repair parts, $25,000 in other shop supplies, $5,000 for an El Bethel awning, $10,000 for center security cameras, and $5,000 for the related wiring.
If I could stop right there. Also, our intent is through attrition, at least through attrition, to go to full-time staffing model for the centers. Is that right?
Yes, for the 5 other centers, it's not.
Right. Some of them are already full-time and
Yes.
some are not. But as attrition happens, and we built that into the budget,
Yes.
we would be able to transition to that.
Yes.
Attrition meaning when they quit.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
something
over-
happens that puts us in a
overtime.
situation.
Staff.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
I like that. I hate to just force someone
Exactly,
out.
exactly.
Yeah.
But then that really will then.
As long as the two people continue to serve in those positions,
Yes.
they would stay.
Yeah, we
Yes.
would,
Okay.
but we'll be prepared for whenever they do transition
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
The next item is, it's a miscellaneous item. It's the budget will include increases in the annual audit fee. This is by the State Comptroller's Office. We don't really have any say on that. It's based on per capita. Autopsy fees, and we've had a big increase in the number of autopsies this year. Workers' comp and building contents insurance is going up, so there's a 12% increase there that's budgeted. And the budget includes the mayor's request of $100,000 for elderly, low-income tax relief program. And we also have $75,000 for courthouse exterior lighting and $100,000 for the bell tower repairs, and this is projected to come out of the renovation restricted fund balance. So that's the county general
I have
fund.
a question. Some of the things that come out of the restricted funds, such as like the last one, I don't see them, like Carol asked for a full-time archivist, but some of the things that.
That would come out of her archives fund
Fees,
balance
but- so
or
they're not
fees.
listed in
No,
here,
and we would amend that when that happens.
Okay.
Because archives fees go to a fund balance that's specific for that, and you can't use it for anything
And the
else.
same thing if we went to cameras or
Yes.
some of the lighting stuff.
Yes.
You, you understand where we're? Yep, okay.
Okay, the next item is the Highway Fund, 131. The budget includes a 1% annual step and a 5% cost of living adjustment, same as schools and county. And it includes the salary for the elected official per the state minimum schedule.
And Mark, do you want to comment on that? That's, you're working within the dollars they put to you, no additional impact.
Yes, no
Beyond the
additional
standard, what we, is it 9 cents?
9 cents, yeah.
Right,
The 9 cents automatically goes every year to the road repair of all roads in there.
exactly.
There's no tax increase in the county general fund or 131 Highway Fund.
Or the school.
Or the schools. Capital Projects Fund. There's no increase in this one either for taxes. County buildings, we have $30,000 for a grounds truck. The assessor needs a $48,000 vehicle. Commissioner iPads, $18,000. Fire, we have a $55,000 truck for the fire marshal, $90,000 for radio pager equipment, $17,200 for 2 Motorola radios. The sheriff, we have $601,347 for 12 cars with upfit. Now, what we did this year, we did a fire truck. This coming year, we were doing sheriff's cars, and we're trying to rotate those.
So hopefully next year we'll be able to put the fire truck back in.
Yes.
We'll see where our numbers fall.
We have some art projects that are not complete. We have not been billed yet on some of these, like the broadband, we're contributing $700,000. We have not gotten a bill yet. There's $60,742 remaining on a water line project. There's $200,000 industrial park sewer water match. There's $201,800 TDEC grant match, and then there's $750,000 for the TCAT road project.
That road project, is that, I know they're supposed to be on 231 right there, so is that a different road or?
It's for the state industrial access. It's not for TCAT.
It's inside the industrial park.
It's inside the industrial park.
It gets over to the industrial park. It
Yeah.
goes by TCAT.
Yeah, it goes by TCAT on Frank Martin Road right there. It's the state industrial access grant for Duxon Electric that has moved here out there and building now. It's part of the state industrial access funds that the state has
So we did
provided.
get a grant on that, or?
Yes.
Is this matching, or?
It's 100% grant on building the road. This cost is for any cost for water, sewer, utility relocations, or land acquisitions. That's what that money is sitting in there for.
Because the road structure wasn't actually in, it was an open field, so it had to be,
It's a $9 million road, is that what it was, $9 million?
It's right at 7 to 8 million, but at the time it's bid, it'll probably be a $9 million project.
that the state, TDOT.
The state is paying 100% of it, except for this part of it for utility relocations.
I already talked about what wasn't included.
That's it.
So, all right, and so you ready for me to talk about this?
Yes.
So we had two big projects lurking out there. The school board sent us an official letter requesting that we seek a revenue stream that would allow them to do the expansion at Liberty with a budget of $5 million. Which the service that would be about $500,000. That we were looking at through debt service on the school side. We have a school debt service and we got a county general debt service. So this particular project would have to come out of school debt service. We're lean in our schedule, and you're going to see your debt schedule. We can let Robert talk about it, but we had a unique situation that is put some extra money in that fund balance that we may could dip out of there to help minimize what the payment would be and be something that we could work with. So explain that.
Okay, on the school side, we've been receiving extra sales tax revenue, and a lot of this is due to internet sales. So it's been accumulating, this part goes to the debt service fund for school debt service. So we feel like we have enough in there that we can make the payments on a Liberty Wing, because that's what it's got to go to, is schools.
Assuming we stay in budget, give or
Yes.
take a dollar or two, we can't blow it won't necessarily support much more than that.
And if the economy tanks, we're going to lose that money. So I'm kind of considering this as one-time money for now, because there's predictions that we may have a recession, whatever, and we've went through that before. And so it looks like what we'd have to do is issue a capital outlay note, and then we can use this money to make the payments of the capital outlay note. Now, we can't budget a capital outlay note. What we do is, once we issue it, we budget the payments, the repayment. And that will happen after this budget's passed in July 1. Then we can go ahead and issue the capital outlay note, schedule the payments, and use this money to pay the payments.
Right, which would let us support that note, assuming the interest rates don't quadruple and the budget doesn't blow up, correct?
Right.
All right, and then the other big project that we've been working on, and the Rules and Legislative Committee sent it over to us as well, looking for revenue streams for juvenile detention. So that would have to come out of the debt service on the county general side, and we've got a unique situation there that won't happen again, that has actually opened the opportunity for us to possibly do this.
What's happened on the county side is we've been collecting interest, and interest goes to county debt service. So in the past, this past year, I think we had audited interest of maybe 200,000, something like that. We've been getting 150 to 200,000 a year. Well, in our bid with banking services, we tied our interest to the Fed rate. So when the Fed rate went up this year, we have collected enough money, 2.4 million so far, that we can use toward the juvenile center. Now, I think that's going to hold through next year. Now, if the economy tanks, then it's one-time money. But those 2 years should be able to make us.
That's
we
why
can
we
make
think
the
we can do
payments.
it. And the unique circumstance was we had ARP funds in the millions that we were holding. They were given to us. We already earmarked them or already committed them to the projects, but couldn't cash them out. So we were getting the interest on that we won't get in the future going forward. But it has landed us this opportunity to pull down what our payment would have to
Right,
be.
so
So
we
that's
can-
how we got, otherwise we wouldn't have relief in the debt structure
Yeah, we've got
as we're
extra
accustomed to
money in
doing.
there to earn interest on.
Jeff is predicting 3 million plus.
Well,
on the-
2 million something plus, but,
okay.
you used to talking about as far
On
as
the
cost.
detention center.
I don't know that, but again, the detention center can't go over 5 million, based on the revenue stream that we
Right,
have
but
in
it would
place.
be less than that.
Well, I hope to God it
hope
is,
so.
yeah.
So what we'll do after July 1 is we can issue another capital outlay note, use that to pay for the juvenile center, and then we'll schedule those payments. So we got 2 unique situations there that
So-
we can take care of
Right,
these.
so that would let us go through without a tax increase
Right.
and
On
get,
anything.
and get the budgets all in place, plus address juvenile detention and Liberty, assuming they stay in budget, based on the number.
Thomas is the school.
Thomas was built into the school's budget, so,
And SROs are covered.
and I believe the
And
letter,
sheriff.
right, and I believe the letter from the school system to me said that this would actually get all the kids out of portables. So that is fantastic.
Good deal.
That's great.
Yeah, so-
Liberty's been needing that for a long time.
Absolutely.
Great, it's got through here.
Absolutely.
Those portables are horrendous.
Right, and so that would be a huge step for this county, but this is really the beginning and not the end, because when you're taking on 1,000 people a year into your community, we're gonna continue to have needs, but this is gonna give us a reset that we've not been able to reach to this point, so those are
How much was the Liberty Wing estimated to be?
5.2.
5.2 on it?
Yeah, we should be able to cover it from what I've seen, and also
Yeah,
the same thing on the juvenile center.
Yeah, I just want.
And Michael-
Plug in.
Absorbing some of that cost, like for furniture and that sort of thing, internet connectivity, those sort of things, we're gonna absorb within our budget, but that 5.2 is for the 10 class.
Yeah, they're going to absorb the architect's fees, and then we'll take care of the actual
So
construction.
that eliminates the portables at Southside too.
Yes, sir, that's the goal.
Okay.
So if we can handle 2 years, this rate, we can sizably reduce any obligation we can
Well-
have, even if it tanks, if we get 2 years, even if it tanks, we're not looking at.
Well, 1 year is the year we're about to end, We've already got it. So if it'll last through the next year, we should be fine. And
And we have-
I believe it will.
And we have reserve anyway. The state won't let us stretch ourselves beyond our means, but it puts us down to the minimums if we don't see those revenues continue like we're expecting. So this is a blessing. And the ARP funds, this is another case where something good come of something bad. Because of COVID, ARP funds came along. Because of ARP funds, it's allowing a few things that were not expected as part of it. And we expect to have the radio system in by the end of the year, and that was like a $5 million project. So there's been like $5 million sitting in the bank drawing this good interest. And this, so all these numbers that he rattled off to you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I have a question for the school board. What are you looking at or thinking how long it's gonna be before we're gonna need another high school with all the elementary schools and the wings? I mean, these kids have gotta go somewhere.
That is true. One of the options that we have, I know Dr. Garrett's looking into several options, and I don't want to speak out of turn for her, but I would say that this TCAT purchase that we have coming up, we've got an opportunity to relieve some of the stress that's on Central High School right now. So hopefully that'll buy us some time where we can free up some debt service and we'll be able to look at a middle school, high school, whatever the need is, based on her guidance, which way we need to go.
Well, I mean, Community's about to open their wing, right? That's gonna almost double the capacity at Community High School.
And Cascade High School.
Right. And Robert, in your book, you'll see his debt schedule, and you'll see debt's falling off along the way. It's not all the payments and then they're all gone. I don't know when the next debt falls off, but you'll see it in the schedule. It's a few years out, though, isn't it?
Right, it is.
And so then that gives us a little relief, and then depending on what the economy's doing, and then growth, if it comes, whether you like it or not, then hopefully there's some adjustments available within that to, again, keep us within our own current structure.
3 to 5, depending on the growth.
And you have it, you're having it in
Yeah,
your
but
head.
I need somebody to make a motion to present this to go to the commission.
Yeah, I want you to be like a Mike Bone and Ed Gray and know what's gonna happen 10 years from now.
That's the goal. Go out and start looking for land now.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically, y'all went through this whole budget, we've got everything is plugged in right there with no tax increase this year.
Right.
Correct.
Including juvenile, well,
Including-
revenue stream for juvenile
Yes.
and
And
Liberty
Liberty
will
Wing.
come through notes next year, after the July.
Good job going through this budget and getting this where it's at. Right there.
So we need
Make a
a,
motion to carry this to the full commission with no tax increase.
okay, all right,
Second.
all right, motion second. Any more discussion?
I have one more question, and you may have already covered it, because I was trying to listen to the video and cut hair and, like, if you're on the Industrial Development Board, I know the city voted not to give that money. Are we voting on that too?
I didn't hear you, I'm sorry, say it again.
On the Industrial Development Board, I know the
Right.
city voted not
It's
to
the
give that
partnership.
partnership.
Right. All we voted for was to continue providing $100,000 for economic development. Okay.
But not to the board directly.
Well, that just depends on what economic development is doing, but the county has since 2018 committed $100,000 a year, and that's what is inflected. There's no increases in there.
That is with the amendment of the nonprofits.
Right, with the amendment of the nonprofits. And then, all right, so there's motion second. Any more discussion here for this body?
Lori's looking confused.
Okay. All right. What?
Are you good?
Oh, you're good, really? All right.
Hurry up.
All right, so all in favor? Any opposed on this? Okay, so this will be what will be packaged up now by Robert's office. Take a few days, get it, tell them what's gonna happen next, so
Okay,
they'll know.
what we're gonna do is do a revised budget copy now, and that will be, instead of a draft, we're gonna have a proposed budget. It'll go with the school budget. We're gonna put it in a notebook with backup documentation. And I have to run an ad in the paper, before it can be voted on. We gotta allow so much time. We will do that, and then we will send out the budget book to all the commissioners. Either, if it comes out before the commission meeting, it'll be in, the mayor's office. You can pick one up, and that's what we anticipate. We don't think it'll take that long. It's gonna
Right,
take
that's
us
our
a while
intent to get it to you
together.
before then, but you can't vote on it at the next commission meeting. It'll have to be the special call that's already published to meet all the time deadlines. And we'll hand deliver to some of you if you need it, need the book gotten to you.
So about how many weeks is Bill gonna have? I want
Well, he's gonna have more, what, about 3 weeks?
it's a balanced budget, I'm good.
Okay. I like that statement. Thank you for that. I think Drew, did you raise your hand? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I thought you.
But there is a lot of things we got to do. In the meantime, we've got to send information to the state statistical data because they have to approve our budget. So it does involve a lot of work, but we will get the books out as soon as we can to everyone.
And like I said, we'll hand
At least
deliver
it should be a few
to
weeks
you.
before we vote final.
Well, the vote is on the 20, what is
28th.
it? Yeah, that's when the commission.
Right,
29th,
so
wasn't it?
everybody should have.
Oh, you'll
3
have,
weeks.
yeah, and they should have it, we should have it to you, have the ability to give it to you even before the commission meeting. Okay, but it's not on the agenda for the coming up commission meeting, everybody understands that.
Yeah.
We have to advertise it and run it in the paper.
It's gotta run
for 10
separate and give
days
notice and-
prior to that vote.
What the projected rates are and all that stuff.
Yes, and we have to do the resolutions, we'll put the resolutions in, we'll have all the information there. And we'll have, at the end of the month, we'll also have a cleanup budget amendment for schools and county. We do this every year, and that will be coming too at the same time.
Right, and that's one of the reasons we need to get out close to the end of the month, because they need to be able to close their books without any overages so that we don't get audit finding, right?
Right.
Man, I can't believe it. All right. Anything else by this group? Did I miss anything? Was there any other business that I missed? Anybody, did I miss anybody trying to raise their hand? I didn't see you.
I just want to say nice work, that's very comforting, I appreciate it, thank you.
A lot of work, and there's still lots of needs, but we are doing everything we can to, and in fairness to the department heads and the fee offices, as I see some of them here with us today, they were very reasonable in what they were asking for, and we've been trying to get to a model where this could be more of the norm instead of the all over the place. One year, very lean, nobody hardly asked for anything. The next year, we need $5 million. You just can't overcome that kind of swing in your natural progression of the budget structure. But we spent the last few years tightening that up and getting on a structure. And so we hope to see more situations like this and to get liberty behind us and juvenile detention, which are so critical, even though they come from a different revenue stream. But y'all understand what's going to happen there. That's really going to take a lot of pressure off of us too, I think, going forward. So
I want to thank Mayor, you and Robert and Lori for working, because this is not an easy process to go through this, and all department heads and elected officials, because it takes all of us to get where we're at right now. So it's a great job getting this on a balanced budget.
Thanks.
Motion
Now,
to adjourn.
the commission will have, one thing,
fast.
the commission will have a resolution for these capital outlay notes when we get ready to do that.
I won't,
Yes.
I won't brag on Robert anymore.
There you go. All right, so motion to adjourn. All right, we good? Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks.